Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. Today we're going to continue the series on the Steam Deck, more importantly, how to get some retro platforms emulating on it, and in this instance, the best games to play. We're going to be taking a look at the Sega NAOMI arcade board today. It is a derivative of the Dreamcast technology that was in home consoles, and it's one of my favorite arcade boards of all time. And even though I own one with a ton of games, I will tell you right now, it is not very portable whatsoever when you're on a train. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But I'm basically going to be focusing almost exclusively on NAOMI exclusives for this video. And while the PlayStation 2 did get a version of Virtua Fighter 4, Virtua Fighter 4 Final Tuned on the NAOMI 2 is the most complete version, and this video is not just on the original Sega NAOMI, it's on the successor hardware NAOMI 2 as well, because Flycast luckily works with both. Now NAOMI 2 is going to be a higher lift, and every once in a while I did see a dropped frame or two here or there, but it is like 99.9% as fast as using original NAOMI 2 hardware, and honestly playing this game in a portable nature is just absolutely outstanding. Now I do think that for some reason, and I'm not quite sure why, you hear a ton about Virtua Fighter 3 and Virtua Fighter 5, but 4 just seems to not be talked about as much, but I absolutely love this game. It's everything you would expect out of a Virtua Fighter game from Sega. That speed, that fluidity, the fact that there's just the 3-button setup and it doesn't complicate itself too much with buttons, more how you handle those inputs. But this game is absolutely spectacular in motion, and it proves that if the Dreamcast had continued, and we'd maybe gotten a Dreamcast 2 with a NAOMI 2 hardware at home, this could keep up with and even exceed what the PlayStation 2 could do in some instances, because Virtua Fighter 4 Final Tuned on NAOMI 2 is a much better looking game than the PlayStation 2 version as well. But you'll see here as I go through matches, this is the classic Virtua Fighter formula, and I've loved this since the first game in arcades. I just love the combo nature of it, the heavy strikes, the fact that a match only lasts 30 seconds, and you can win a match within 10 to 15 seconds if your strikes are on point and your grapples are good. I just like the fact that matches are quick, and they have that sense of speed to them. If you're playing well, it's almost like it's seamless, and this is definitely a game that's going to be better with friends, so if you do want to play this on Flycast, maybe grab a dock, a couple controllers, and start playing versus. Now another NAOMI exclusive that I absolutely love is Monkey Ball. This is not to be confused with what came over on home consoles. This is a different version of the game, and to date it still remains a Sega NAOMI exclusive. If you played one Monkey Ball game, you've played them all and you understand how it works. But this is where the franchise got its start. Now unfortunately Steam Deck does not have a big banana shaped analog controller on it like the original cabinet did. It's hilarious in appearance, but you do get a great sensation of analog control here with the Steam Deck's analog controls, or if you dock it and use any sort of standard console controller, it's going to be great as well. This is the type of game that is absolutely simple to understand. You don't even have buttons. Use the analog stick, roll your monkey into the goal. But it gets needlessly complex and insanely hard in the best ways possible. Right here, you can just jump off the back of this course, and if you play it just well, I did this on my first try, I swear, you have to believe me, you can jump around to different floors. But I'm curious who remembers the original Monkey Ball and who loves this franchise. Leave me a comment down below and tell me. And I will say, like I said, this game gets hard, but that difficulty just makes you come back for more. It's a quick pick up and play game, and the perfect game to play on your train ride, or if you're taking a flight to go on vacation. You can play for 10 minutes, you can play for 20 minutes, you can play for an hour, and you're gonna absolutely enjoy every last bit of it. Because you'll see here on this level, I'm taking the easiest route over, which is fine for progression, but all of those bananas for scoring are on a different, narrower path. Getting to some of the narrowest paths in this game takes absolute controller input perfection, but that's what's so much fun about Monkey Ball. Easy to learn, insanely hard to master. This is a fun game, and if you ever want to be completely blown away, watch some speed runs of it. People do things with the physics in this game that seem impossible. Now on the beat 'em up side, you guys just absolutely have to play Asian Dynamite. It is basically a pseudo sequel and reskin to Dynamite Deka or Dynamite Cop 2 on Dreamcast, Model 3, and NAOMI. It's all really just kind of jumbled together. But this reskins the game and basically makes a new game out of Dynamite Deka, and it was developed by Sega of China, so it's got a lot of Chinese influences. and it is just absurd from start to finish. It's weird, it's funny, it's got everything you need, including an absolutely fun and great soundtrack. So go ahead and listen for like 45 seconds, I'll come back and show you some more great Naomi games. I mean, the soundtrack 100% fits Asian Dynamite to a T, and so does the absurdity, because it basically is just another sequel to Die Hard Arcade on the Sega Saturn and STV arcade boards, except it loses the Die Hard license and goes way off into left field with this absurdity. I mean, you pick up an oxygen tank here, you shoot it like a missile, and basically an atomic bomb mushroom cloud forms in the level. But that not only did not hurt you, it wasn't enough damage to take out your enemies as well. Not sure in what world people decide that, but that is how this game works. And these guys here definitely look like Macho Man Randy Savage, and it's just such a weird and obscure, strange game. But it's also a really competent 3D beat 'em up that you can play with a second player and share the fun with this game. It's a laugh a minute. You're 100% never going to forget your playthrough of Asian Dynamite, and all of the character transformations are just so weird. I mean, we're literally going to take this enemy here and we're going to fold all of his bones up and snap them all at once. Then he's just going to reset them and go right back to attacking you. Well, I guess we actually killed him, but trust me, Asian Dynamite, a very weird game, but amazing. Now, my absolute favorite Naomi exclusive has got to be Lupin the Third: The Shooting. Now, I know absolutely nothing about anime. I do not watch it. No judgments. It's not for me. Except for one series, and that is Lupin the Third. Saw it like 25 years ago, fell in love, and I played every game ever since. Now, obviously, this is a light gun game, and the Steam Deck is not a light gun machine. It is a handheld portable gaming PC. But the good thing is, with Flycast, you can transpose the light gun inputs over to the mouse, and if you have a Sinden light gun and you want to dock this, you can even play it that way. I guess supposedly you probably could just point the Sinden at the Steam Deck itself. It would be a very small screen to aim at, but maybe if you want to see a video on me doing stupid things with light guns on Steam Deck, leave me a comment down below and I might just do it. But this game has something for everyone. It's got the light gun shooting aspect, but in some levels, like right here, you need to shoot different sides of the screen to steer the car through traffic to make sure you don't take too much damage before you see the end. So this is basically like a light gun game plus, but it is just such a blast, and it's one of those games, the only place you can play it is on the Sega NAOMI. And there is a typing version of this as well, just like there was the Typing of the Dead. There's a Lupin the Third: The Typing. Now, I definitely wouldn't recommend playing that on the go with the Steam Deck unless you want to bring a keyboard on the train with you. But if you do, please take a photo and send it to me. I would love to post that on Twitter. But if you like light gun games, if you like Lupin the Third, if you like Naomi exclusives, this game has you covered in all three different directions. The soundtrack is great, the gameplay is great, and it basically plays like a light gun game as well as a mini game collection. It's almost like Point Blank from Namco and Lupin the Third, the anime and manga series, were formed together to create a game, and when you take two amazing properties like that, you really can't go wrong. Well, let's move over to the fighting game genre again, because Dead or Alive 2 Millennium is an absolute outstanding game on Naomi, and I know that this game does exist on Dreamcast and other platforms, but Millennium has just enough changes to technically, theoretically, with an asterisk, be a Naomi exclusive. I mean, honestly, there's not much difference between this and the Dreamcast version or other versions. It is just my preferred way to play. And this is as good as Virtua Fighter 4 any day of the week and twice on Sundays. I'm not saying that Dead or Alive stayed as good of a franchise as Virtua Fighter. I'm saying Dead or Alive 2 lockstep with Virtua Fighter 3 and 4 to be as good. But I absolutely love the soundtrack of Dead or Alive 2 as well, and I know you guys love your soundtrack breaks, so go ahead and listen for like 30 seconds this time, and I'll come back and show you more Naomi exclusives you gotta play. Awesome soundtrack. There's a reason I let you listen to that section, because you may have noticed some of the sound effects came across a little bit hot and were clipping channels. Now, that is just something that every once in a while I have seen Flycast do with Dead or Alive 2 and a couple other Naomi games, but that's not surprising because the other emulator of choice for Naomi, Demule, will do it as well. It just seems like there might not be a perfect bit of emulation there with the sound effects on Dead or Alive 2. Really doesn't take away from much of the experience, because this game is still a fluid masterpiece of fighting game fun. But if you do notice sometimes that sound effects come across a little bit clipped, you're gonna know why. Now, speaking of fighting games, but not technically, there is one game on the Naomi that kind of basically just confounds me completely. It is one part 3D fighting game and one part shmup. How do those go together? I'm still really not sure, but it's one of those exclusives, and it's a game that you just 100% need to experience if you're going to emulate Naomi on Flycast, because you're probably not going to see it anywhere else. But the name of the game is Senko no Rande, and leave me a comment down below if that pronunciation's not right, because 9 times out of 10 when I try, I do fail. But like I said, this is a game unlike anything else you've ever played, I would assume. It is basically a shmup, but it's also a combat shmup with some fighting game style mechanics. As you'll see here as I zoom in on my opponent, you do have a button that has melee strikes. But you basically navigate around in this full 3D space, trying to shoot your opponent while also avoiding their projectiles and getting in close enough for those melee attacks that are going to take a ton of health off of your opponent's life bar. You're basically floating up in the sky having this robot battle, and it is so much fun even if you're never quite sure exactly what is going on. I haven't spent a ton of time with this game in the past. I've played it here and there. When I was thinking about games to recommend, I love talking about deep cuts, and because I do know this game, I am recommending you check it out. And again, much like pretty much every other arcade game on Naomi, it is going to be more fun if you bring a friend, especially because the AI gets really good towards the end of the game, and there aren't a ton of good movesets that I found for this online. But there really isn't any game quite like this one, and that's why I love recommending these things. Because for every Virtua Fighter 4 or Dead or Alive 2 on an arcade board, there's a Senko no Rande as well, that game that maybe you saw a photo of once 15 years ago and completely forgot existed. Let's move over to an actual traditional shmup, and that is Raider G Noah. It basically looks like Jet Grind Radio in motion with the cel-shaded graphics, and it is just an absolute blast. But this game, again, can be absolutely punishingly hard, but that is what I love in my shmups. It's got that bullet hell vibe to it, but it's just such a visually arresting game, and again, it's something that you never got to see on Dreamcast, making this still a Naomi exclusive. But I just love all the bullet patterns, how organic they are. Every once in a while you do get some of those geometric patterns. But I love this game so much based for the visual look in and of itself. You don't really get many cel-shaded shmups, and you don't really get that many cel-shaded games in general, so having something like this on Naomi is 2 slices of cake at the same time. It's just that good, and I'm not even sure where I came up with 2 slices of cake at the same time. Eat the whole damn cake if you want, who am I to judge? But this game also has an incredible soundtrack, so go ahead and listen for like 30 seconds this time. I'll come back and show you even more amazing Naomi games. Just such a great soundtrack, I love it. But speaking of things I love, The Maze of the Kings is an absolutely outstanding light gun game on Naomi, and it's never left the platform. This is basically Egyptian House of the Dead, so think of that franchise except pivot zombies to mummies and other Egyptian monsters. And this is an exceedingly rare arcade cabinet as well. The odds of you seeing one on an arcade floor are quite limited because it wasn't the most successful game around, and the light gun controller was actually an Egyptian staff that probably got broken 10 out of 10 times because people are not good to arcade cabinets. Luckily, it does emulate perfectly fine on Flycast, and if you want to get that Sinden light gun or something like a Gun for IR, I haven't tested that on Steam Deck. Leave me a comment down below if you know if Gun for IR works, because it's not something I've read about yet. But if you want to see me do a video on using the Steam Deck for those strange purposes, maybe putting it on a VGA monitor, maybe using a light gun for it, leave me that comment down below because those videos take a long time to make, and I want to make sure you guys want to see it before I spend all the time and effort on them. But if you're looking for another awesome light gun game and one that you've probably never played before, definitely check out the Maze of the Kings. But leave me a comment down below and tell me if you knew this game existed. I featured it a long time ago on the beginning years of my channel, and it still remains one of my favorite light gun games that Sega has ever made. So if you're looking for another great light gun experience, don't forget Flycast can just use mouse input too, and Steam Deck's got that in spades. Now usually if you watch my channel, you know I love Sega arcade racing games. I could have featured something racing on this episode, and I wanted to pivot and talk about another Naomi exclusive, and that is Jambo Safari. And before you go down below and comment and say Jambo Safari was on the Wii, I know that it was, but the version of that game changes so many things fundamentally from the Naomi version, and for the worse, to my money, this is the only way to play. It is extremely easy to pick up and extremely strategic to get high scores. Drive your Jeep towards an animal, wait for that green bullseye to pop up on screen, and capture them with your rope. The closer you get, you push a button to tire them out, and when you get the second green reticle, you can throw your net out and capture them. Now I will say, at least in my experience on my Steam Deck, Flycast does an amazing job of taking a standard Xbox style controller input and auto-binding the controls that you need. Because the last time I played this game for capture was on Demule, and it took me longer to get the controls set up than it did to actually capture the game. Now your mileage may vary. I do get a lot of comments with people having different controller setups than I seem to see, even though they've set everything up the exact same way, and I'm not sure why that is. But I am kind of looking into it and listening to people's comments to find out what their experiences is when they're playing these games, because it seems like 1 out of every 50 or so people, when I say the controls just auto-bind, they don't see that on their systems. I usually help them find a way to figure it out, but in this instance, you never know. But honestly, if you catch a baboon, don't try to hug it, it's going to bite you. Again though, soundtrack, 10 out of 10, amazing, listen, and I'll be right back. And she brought that rhino home, and to this day they are friends and live together. That's not a true story, she's not a real person, and that's not a real rhino. Speaking of things that are not real, Toy Fighter is another thing that does not exist in the real world. At least I hope not. This is basically if Toy Story and Virtua Fighter combined and had a baby, and boy what an ugly baby that would be. All jokes aside, I'm getting to the end of the video and I like to make jokes in this section. It's another awesome fighting game that you should 100% check out, and it's another game on Naomi that is 100% an exclusive. This never came to Dreamcast or any other system around, so if you want to play Toy Fighter, you have to play it here. And while it looks a little bit ridiculous and simple at face value, it's actually a ton of fun. Basically, each character at the start of a match has those 5 hearts in the top of the screen. Take the entire life bar of your opponent down, and they're going to lose 1 heart. Grapple them and slam them to the ground, they're going to lose 2, and use your special attack and land it, and they're going to lose 3. So it's kind of like a 5-round match, except it's very easy to take down multiple rounds at once. You'll see there that Negibird has taken down 3 life points at once with that special attack. This is basically a strategy game with a fighting game component. And as you get later on in the game, you're going to have to get really good at grappling and timing, because just because you engage a grapple does not mean you're going to actually get those life points. There is going to be a meter, and if you hit it at the right spot, you're going to be able to knock them down. If you screw it up, they're going to be able to counter or even put you into that same slamming animation, taking your life bar away. It's a very interesting mechanic, and you'll see there was an escape and a reverse at the same time. Almost plays like a wrestling game that happens to be a fighting game at the same time, but it's something that I know not many people have played, and it is a game that I 100% recommend you check out, especially with friends, and it is so weird. But those are the games I recommend you check out on the Naomi. Almost all of them outside of Dead or Alive 2 are exclusives of the platform as well. They all work great on Steam Deck in Flycast, and they're all games I think you should play. Well, leave me a comment down below and tell me what's the one game I left out you would have loved to see. Otherwise, we're done with the video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.